So when I have a lot of flour, I knead it here like that. Yeah. But if you start when it's too sticky, it's gonna get messy. So notice like it's getting less sticky on my hand the more I do it this way.
Oh,
Even the pot that I've been using, see there's less of it.
I see. Yeah.
So those are like the rules of thumb to know that the consistency is getting to where I want it to be. And then I'm gonna add the preheated flour to my tablespoon. I will add for this amount, I'm counting 1, 2, I think I'm gonna put 3 tablespoons of oil. The oil was heated, so I might wait a couple of seconds to make sure I don't burn my hands.
No, no, we don't want that to happen. Yeah, Esther, I have a non-food related question. Your clothes is so pretty. So is
Oh,
that
I forgot to say why I did this. So I'm still knitting. So my dress, I bought this dress in Zanzibar, and it's a fusion. Zanzibar is along the coast of Tanzania. It's an island of Tanzania. I bought it in 2007. I've worn it very few times. Today just felt kind of right because the way we cook our chapati is a fusion of Indian and Arabic plus the African, way of doing things with no recipe and stuff like that. And this outfit, I didn't wear the whole of it, but it is kind of like a fusion of the different cultures. Like it has elements of the Indian culture, Arabic culture, and African culture. Kiswahili, which is the language. So when I say Kiswahili, other people will say Swahili. You would never hear me say Swahili because in our culture, Ki is the Bantu way of referring to a language. So we say Kiswahili. That means you're talking about the language. When you say Swahili, you're talking about the people, the culture. So say Kizungu, that's English. Kifaransa, that's French. Kilatino, yeah. So Kiswahili is a fusion of African culture, Arabic culture, and Indian culture.
Wow, so you're fusing different culture using your food and clothing and the language.
And language, yes. So like in Kiswahili, I think I'm gonna add 1 more tablespoon of oil to this. In Kiswahili, we say duka, and that's from the Hindu word dukan. When I say I wanna go to the shop, I say I'm going to the duka. Naenda dukani. That's from Indian. And other times we will have words which are a lot of words which are from Arabic, like salam, we say salamu.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, even subira. In Arabic, I think it's subra, that means patience. And then there are some other words which are very Bantu, meaning they're very African, like enda. And even languages in Zimbabwe, South Africa that have got Bantu in them, they will have some derivative of enda. So I can understand some languages that are from Southern Africa, Zimbabwe, Zambia, South Africa, because of the root word. If the root word came from Bantu, then I will understand.
Oh.
We can do that with Southern Africa, East Africa, Central Africa, Southern Africa, but not West Africa. we are not able to connect our languages. So yeah, so notice, see, I haven't washed my hands.
Yeah, so how do you know how much oil to add? Because you added 3 and then you decided to add 1 more. Why? What are you
Because of the texture, just the texture. I felt I wanted it a little bit more softer. And I can still add 1 more spoon if I want, but I think this is the texture that I'm looking for. And I was showing you my hands because the consistency of the dough is such that it's not sticking to my hand. Yeah, as I am kneading, look, it doesn't stick to my hand at all.
Yeah, I like how Anna Maria is taking notes right now. She's definitely a good teacher.
Oh, I have all my ingredients and I'm gonna make it as soon as this is over.
So once we've done that, once you're satisfied with the texture and the consistency, we start to pinch it and make small balls. So this is in proportion to the pot that I have. Normally, if I was in Kenya, we would use a heavy flat pan for cooking. I tried getting one, I'll show you if I can find it. I bought this in South Africa not South Africa, South America, because it kind of looks like it broke during transit. It kind of looks like the ones we use to make chapati. The only difference that this is not heavy, and I attempted making chapati on it and it was sticking. So we usually use something that looks like this, but it's from cast iron, it's very heavy. Yeah. But I don't have that right now. So I'm gonna use this one. Yeah, it's kind of not too light. It's not as heavy as I would want it to be, but it's not too light. So what I usually do is mess around with the settings for the heat to make sure that it doesn't cook too fast, because then it's not going to test right. So the ball that I'm making is in proportion with the size, this size here.
Oh, wow.
And then the ball also, we don't want the chapati to be very thick. So I want to be able to flatten it out and have a thin layer. So again, we're just eyeballing. I'm using the palm of my hand to kind of get a sense for the size.
I see, yeah. So when was the first time you tried this dish?
So when we're back at home, it's usually something that most families will make once or twice a week.
Oh, wow.
If you ask the people who are not cooking, do you want to have chapati every day? They'll say yes. But because it's quite time consuming, it's a labor of love. Most people will do it maybe twice a week, especially with career women. You're going to work Monday to Friday. Then they'll just tell their family, no, this is something that I can just make maybe on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday when I'm not working.
Oh, and you made it for our group. That's so nice of you.
And I made it on a Saturday or Sunday. So I'm being consistent with the career women in Kenya. They'll do it maybe Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
How long does it stay good for? If you make it on a Saturday, how many days can you keep eating it?
So in Kenya, we eat it fresh. So that's why you would make, if people want to eat it on Monday and Tuesday, they would make it twice. But because I'm here, actually, when I go home, my auntie makes a lot for me. Then I bring them back and put them in the freezer. And I do have some which I made last time and then in the freezer. So I'll show you. So this is the last one of the batch that I made about 4 weeks ago. But as long as I freeze it, it can stay there for a very long time. If it's not in the freezer, I also have an answer for you, because I went to boarding school, and outside of the refrigerator, we would eat chapati for 5 days without anybody complaining. And then the matron would go around and say, you know, throw it away after 5 days. You cannot keep it anymore. Yeah. So I'm going to start now. I'll move here. I have made the balls, and I will show you. Oops, what am I looking for? So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. How many do I have? 7, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so what I will start doing is, I'll move this here. I have a rolling pin. I'll start flattening it out. And if it is sticking, the trick is just to use flour to make sure it doesn't stick. Normally, there is a flat board that we use, but I don't have one, and this just works fine. The surface works just fine. So I'm flattening it out and turning it because I want it to be spherical.
The board, you would just put the ball in and squish it till it comes out flat?
Yes, but you do it in a way that it becomes also kind of a circle. This time around, I'm not being very strict because I'm going to do something right now. You're going to see it in a minute. Remember I talked about spoons? This is where my spoons are going to come in handy. So everywhere where I'm gonna put the dough, I put flour so that it doesn't stick. I'm gonna be shifting this in a moment, and I'm sprinkling where I'm gonna put it with flour so it doesn't stick. But now I'm gonna use my spoon. This is some of the preheated oil. Yeah. So I'm gonna use the spoon.
Oh, I
Spread it
see.
around.
So Esther, you mentioned this is a dish originally coming from India. Does Indian chapati look very different from Kenyan chapati?
So the Indians have it, but also the Arabs have their version. And then in Kenya, it's a mixture of Indian. So this is what this looks like. Yeah, I do this. I'll tell you why I'm doing this in a minute, then I'll come back to your question. When we make our chapati, there's usually two litmus tests for a good chapati. This is now the Kenyan chapati. Number one, it has to be soft. When people eat it, they want it to be soft. Number two, they like it if it has layers and it's peeling. Yeah, so what I've done with the oil, that is the way to get the layers. Yeah, so I'll do that for this very quickly while answering your question. So the Kenyan cuisine is a fusion, and I would say it's the Swahili culture now, the fusion of the three cultures. There will be some similarities, but it will taste differently because the Kenyan one is a combination of three cultures. The Kenyan chapati and Tanzanian chapati is pretty much the same. They'll be closer to what the Indians call parathas. What they call chapati will not be similar, very, very similar to our chapati, but there is a version of it that will have some similarities.
So that's about an eighth of an inch thick?
Sorry?
Would you say that's about an eighth of an inch thick?
Less than.
Less than?
Yeah, and I'll show you. I mean, I've already put oil on this one, but the next one, I'll show you the thickness. I'll put my finger next to it so we see the thickness.
Oh, nice. Guoshan, I might be wrong, but do you think this reminds you of a Chinese dish? I feel I see some dish like that in northern China before. What about you?
Yes, I think it. I live in the south of China, so I'm not capable of doing this kind of dishes. I think I'm a good cooker.
No, you're a very good cook. You taught us how to make different chicken dish, tofu dish, and it was nice.
Yes, but I'm not capable of doing this kind of cake. Yes.
Baking.
Oh yeah, Esther is kind of like an artist in that way.
I'm showing you the thickness next to my finger. I don't know if this is helping.
Esther, you're an architect. I trust you have a ruler right next to your drawers.
So we don't, yeah, because it's Swahili, we use our eyes. So the rule of thumb here is we use a lot of rule of thumb. You make it as thin as possible without, like the thinnest possible without it puncturing. Yeah. The thinner, the better. That's the rule of thumb. You want it very thin, but then at the same time, you don't want it to puncture.
So even though, like I assume in Kenya, most people would cook it in a similar fashion, but would you say there are still some differences when you go to different households?
The differences will be more about actually the quality of the chapati is based on three things. Is it soft? Are there layers that are peeling off? And then the final one is it thin? Most Kenyans, if you make your chapati very thick, they will not even eat it. They'll be like, no, that's not good chapati. But if you think about it, there's some physics there because if you put the oil in the middle, when you are shallow frying it, then it cooks up to the inside, and even when it's very thick, it will not cook very nicely. So the thin layer cooks better, and it will taste cooked all the way to the inside.
Oh, okay. And
Go on, sorry.
Oh no, that's okay. Yeah, I know your husband was from your neighbor country, so does he cook it slightly differently or?
No, it's the same because it's the combination of Bantu, African culture, which is the Bantu culture in East Africa is called Bantu. Bantu is different from the culture that you have in the West Africa. It's a different ethnic group. The history of people, of Bantu people in Kenya, they migrated from central Cameroon. If you read the books of history, the way East Africa got populated, there's a big group that came from central Cameroon and they split into 3 groups. One group came straight into East Africa. There's a group that went to the south, and then there's a group that went a little bit north, and then they dropped to the south. So that's why the languages are similar and the cultures are very similar. You have other people who came from other places, but this is like a lot of Bantu influencing Indian and Arabic ways of doing things. And it's the same in Tanzania. It's the same group of people. Like in Kenya, we call them the ones who actually. So there are some who, the ones who are true Swahili people, they've intermarried. In Kenya, if you meet a Swahili person, and it's the same in Tanzania, if you meet them, they kind of look like Arabs, but they're not Arabs, and I'll tell you the difference. But even they will tell you very quickly that we are not Arabs. If you say in Kiswahili, Mwarabu, they'll be so mad. They'll be like, I'm not a Mwarabu. Because you're denying them. You're denying them their African, their Bantu roots, which they identify with. So they will tell you, I'm Swahili, I'm not Arab. Yeah. And so in Kenya especially, when we say Swahili, we know that we are referring to a very specific group of people who are the mixture of Arabs, Native African, and Indian. But a lot of the Indian is less, it's more the Arab and the African native tribes. The difference between them and the Arabs is the texture of the hair. Because they have native African blood in them, their hair is very black and very thick. Yeah, so it's an African who doesn't have the mixture with the Arabs, their hair will not be that dark. Oh. And it will not be that thick, like a lot of hair, very bushy. And then their complexion is going to be like Arab, but with a tan. So they'll be very fair complexion, but they'll look like an Arab who's got a little bit of a tan, not a lot of it, but just a little bit of a tan. So the closest comparison would be with some people from Ethiopia. The Swahili, the true Swahili people will look, some of them you cannot distinguish them from people from Ethiopia and Eritrea. I have a friend whose relatives came from Madagascar, and it's the same complexion and the same texture of hair. So like my husband has got Arab blood in him, and sometimes people look at our pictures and they say, are you sure you are not related? And I'm like, we are not. Because of the hair, his hair is very dark and very thick. like I could get confused for a moment, but then when I see his hair, and I'm like, we are definitely not related. I do not have Arab blood in me.
So you mentioned that this dish was originally from India. Do you happen to know how it came all the way from India to to Kenya?
So remember I said also Arabic, because the Arabs also started trading. The Arabs have been trading with the Indians for centuries. Even before the Europeans arrived in East Africa, before Vasco da Gama arrived in Africa, we already had a history of the people of Arab trading with people in Africa and also people in India. There was an Indian Ocean trade that was going on for very many centuries before Vasco da Gama arrived in East Africa, that's the Portuguese, in the 15th century. So, so that is how the culture started mixing. And the earliest visitors were actually the Arabs, and then the Indians came after that. But a lot of the influences, I keep mentioning Arabs because a lot of the influences happened because of the Arabic factor. The Arabs intermarried with the locals, the Indians did not.
Ah.
So this is what this looks like right now. I don't know if you can see.
They look like little pastries.
Yeah, it looks like pastries.
Yeah. So now I'm at the stage where I will now start making them for transitioning to this, to cooking. So I'm going to turn on my gas to heat up the pot. And I'll just wipe a little bit of oil that's here because it's going to stick. So the history of East Africa has got a lot of Arab influence, and actually the Persians, people from Iran, the Persians, they arrived in the east coast of Africa in the 10th century, between 9th and 10th century, and you have some structures that they left behind. Yeah, and I like visiting them. There are ruins, the ruins along the coast of East Africa, both Kenya and Tanzania, tell you the full story. The Persian ruins are there. The Arabs were there for a very long time. In fact, sometime, for a while, for many years, the Sultan of Oman was ruling his kingdom from East Africa, from Zanzibar. Yeah, but then as I said earlier, the reason why the Arab influence became very significant was they intermarried with the local people.
Oh, I see.
So this one needs to be a circle. That's another rule of thumb. Like most of us, what we do, if we don't want to be bothered about a perfect circle, this is where the spoon comes in handy once more. Yeah, if I want, this is actually probably okay, but if I'm getting really fussy about a perfect circle, I can just use my tablespoon to smooth out.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so it works. But as I said, this one was probably already okay where it was. Another thing that we do, if the circle looks like it's you know, you can get people laughing at you. When you finish cooking, you slice it up or you roll it so nobody can say, you know, oh, but you don't know how to make circular chapatis. Yeah, so this is probably ready to go now to the pot. So again, see, if it was too thin, this is the place where it would either tear up or it would puncture up. So my eyeballing kind of worked. I'll show you. Just give me a minute.
Oh, yeah, we can see it now.
Oh, wow.
That's chapati number 1.
That's chapati number 1. And I'm going to reduce the heat. I had it at high heat because I wanted the pot to heat up. But when the chapati starts swirling, you know that it will start burning.
So what do you usually eat with chapati? Do you eat it by itself or do you add some sauce?
I will tell you in a minute. Let me make sure this one doesn't burn first of all. So where am I? So that was cooking a little too quickly. So I've removed it actually. I've removed the pot from the fire because the pot got a little too hot. I'm taking it back now. And you can see like this cooked a little too quickly.
Oh.
That means the pot got a little too hot. So at this step, I add oil. I add oil around like that. I'm only taking it from the fire because it got too hot. I add oil. So we start with dry frying it, and after we've done dry frying, then we add the oil. Normally, I would not be putting it away from.
Can you just flip it like that?
Normally, I would not do this while here. You know, remember, I just said I'm doing this because the pot got a little too hot.
I know that when Anna Maria recreate the recipe, she will add her own. What do you think you are gonna add? I know you're gonna change the recipe a little bit.
I'm gonna make one half as is. The other one, I'm probably gonna add some garlic or some other seasoning in there just for fun.
Oh yeah, there you go.
So people actually normally add things like they will add, what is it called? They will add onions, spring onions, garlic. So that's actually there already. Like people can add stuff onto the chapati.
Mm.
Cheese.
There's clearly I'm not the only one.
So this is probably ready now.
I think Miss Anna Maria said she will add cheese.
Yes.
That's what she always adds.
Okay, nobody adds cheese, and I will tell you a cheese story.
Nobody adds cheese.
But you can try and let us know how that goes. I'll tell you why I'm so 100% certain that nobody adds cheese. I'll tell you in a minute. So I'll let the pot cool because it got a little hot, and I'll come back and make a few of these here and try to move quickly while I tell you the cheese story.
Oh, cheese story. Okay.
So there's something really interesting about people from Kenya and Tanzania. I need to do research and find out if it's the same in Uganda. I will not be surprised if it is the same. We love our dairy products. We love a lot of dairy products. Like everybody drinks milk. Yeah, men, women, children, adolescents, grandparents, our parents, everybody loves milk. Everybody will drink. We call it mala. It's like yogurt. If you give people that for lunch, while they're eating their lunch, they will drink it with no hesitation. We will put ghee in our vegetables. So you get the point. We love milk, but we don't eat cheese.
Oh, okay.
We really don't. And it's very hard to get an East African to start eating cheese. I started eating cheese in UK because my friend's husband was a trickster. He told me he had given up on his wife. His wife is originally from Kenya, and he had given up on her because no matter what he did, she would not touch cheese.
Oh.
But he looked at me and he thought, you know, she's a researcher, so I will use the research route to get her to try cheese. So after we had eaten, he looked at me and he said, Esther, I've been traveling in Europe and I came back with a collection of cheese from different countries. And I want your opinion on what you think about the different cheese from all this, because he traveled a lot. It was like from 10 different European countries. So I was like, okay, that sounds like a fun experiment. So he started slicing like small pieces like this. Small pieces like this. And then, then we discuss it. We're like, oh, wow, that's a sharp flavor. That's da-da-da-da-da. By the time we got to cheese number 10, I had already realized that there's a flavor of cheese that I actually like. And that is how I started eating cheese. It started as an experiment, like a playful experiment. And then,
that's how you trick the researcher eat cheese, I guess.
That is how you trick the researcher to eat cheese. So fast forward, whenever I'm in a KLM flight from Amsterdam to Kenya, they still insist on serving cheese, even when 80% of the people in the plane are from either Kenya and Tanzania, and they're not going to touch cheese. And you should see, they open the food and they see the cheese. I usually look at the person sitting next to me if they're from Kenya, and you see them using a fork, and they do that, pop, pop.
Oh, I see.
So when the cheese. So one time I wanted to mess around with one of them, and because he looked at me and he's like, "Are you gonna eat the cheese?" I said, "Yes." And he was like, "What sort of a Kenyan are you?" And I'm like, "I'm gonna show you." And I ate it, and I told him, "I'm even gonna eat yours." And he's like, "Are you serious?" I said, "Yes." And I ate his cheese, and he was like so disgusted. He was like, "I can't believe that you're eating that thing." So Anna Marie, that is the reason why I'm 100% certain that nobody will put cheese in their chapati.
Yeah, Miss Judith, what about you? Do you eat any cheese in Rwanda? Oh, I think you're muted. Oh, now you're upside down, but you're still muted.
Okay, am I still muted? No.
No, we can hear you great.
No, it's not in our culture.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I mean, Guoxian, I guess you are like me from China, so you probably don't eat cheese either.
But we lived 4 years in Switzerland, so I got to eat fondue.
Oh, there you go.
Mhm.
And I can eat it in pizza, but eating the cheese by itself, it's very rare. Sometimes I try, but it's not my thing.
I see. Yeah. Yeah, Guoxian, you were trying to say something?
Yeah, I eat cheese seldom. I'm not really like to eat. I think this kind of fruit.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. Sandy, what about you? Do you eat cheese in Sierra Leone?
Yeah, we sort of eat everything.
Oh, you
Nothing
do?
really that stands out that I would say Sierra Leoneans don't eat. We eat everything.
Oh, okay. So is that a regional difference? Like maybe East Africa don't eat cheese, but West, how does that? Is there
So
like a
East
key?
Africans, so I mean the younger people and people who are traveled and been tricked like me, we can eat it now. I can eat cheese neat without anything else. Which is very surprising even to me. I can't believe that I can eat cheese, but I can actually eat it without anything else and enjoy it. But then I was going to say that as a rule of thumb, people from Kenya and Tanzania, and I think it's common in East Africa and even some of the Southern African countries, we are very fussy about what we eat. You don't go to, especially Kenya and maybe Uganda, we are not known for food diversity. And we are not known for experimenting with food that we've never eaten before. Yeah, like chapati, you know, we will eat like chapati, rice. Somebody talked about salsa before. We have our equivalent, we call it ugali. And for most people, that is the starch, the carbohydrates. For them, that's where they'll choose from. If they're not having chapati, they will be having the ugali, the equivalent of salsa. If they're not having that, it's going to be rice. There will be very little deviation from those three things. Maybe sometimes pasta and spaghetti, but the three that I mentioned, especially the salsa and the chapati and the rice, that's where they'll go. And then for protein, they will eat green grams. This is probably ready, so I'm going to put it to the side. So this is the color that I try to look for. Yeah, so the other one got a little bit too cooked. Maybe I'll cook it just a little bit more.
Oh, yeah, that looks nice. Yeah, so I think Vandy, your home country seems to be different because you mentioned that there are so many cuisines. It's not like there are only 3 dishes you choose.
Yeah,
And
Oh, sorry.
yeah, I think probably it's the same in a lot of other African countries as well. But for us, our staple food probably we eat every day is rice, or cassava, or plantains. So we eat that a lot most of the time.
Oh.
Yeah, occasionally we eat fufu and other things like that. But we also have like food. Most homes, most people prepare like on a daily basis. One of those, just like Esther mentioned. And also,
for
yeah,
protein, sorry,
was
go on.
sorry.
For protein, what do you eat for protein?
Oh, we eat fish all the time. You know, we are by the ocean, just like somebody was mentioning Senegal. So
Yeah.
the fish is very, very cheap compared to chicken or beef. So we eat fish all the time, almost in every meal. Yeah, people can afford fish.
So when I was growing up, there were a few ethnic groups around Lake Victoria and along Indian Ocean. They would eat fish. The rest of the country refused to eat fish. Unfortunately, people started having, because of eating too much beef and being sedentary, we started having an abnormal occurrence of heart diseases prematurely, like, and that scared people. So people who I went to school with who would, you know, they would not even come to your house if they think you're gonna cook fish because like, ew, the smell. But now you go to Nairobi, fish is the most eaten food. So it's amazing how medical problems can change the culture of an entire city.
Oh, that's interesting.
But then having said that, the fish that is eaten in Kenya is mostly tilapia. And so people have not changed in terms of being fussy. If you give them any other type of fish, they will say no. So, what's the name of the tiny fish? Anchovies?
Mhm.
Sardines?
Anchovies. So
Or
some
anchovies,
people
yeah.
will eat anchovies. My father, when we were growing up, he wasn't a fan of anchovies, so I never learned how to eat anchovies. And as a result of that, I cannot really enjoy anchovies. That's me. Like after several years of living outside Kenya, there is still that resistance that I want tilapia. I've taught myself how to eat salmon. I cannot go beyond that. It's very hard for me to deviate. The Kenyan reluctance to try new things has reached its limit. And my husband likes anchovies. So last year, when I was with him for 3 weeks, I tried to go along with the anchovy eating business. After about 2 weeks, I was done. I was like, I can't do this anymore. Sorry. And even now, when I talk to him on the phone and he tells me, so I usually wipe the pot when I see, because I'm using flour to prevent it from me from sticking to the place where I'm doing the flattening. I usually, from time to time, use tissue or serviette to wipe out the flour to make sure that the flour doesn't burn.
Mm.
Yeah, so even now, like because of 2 weeks of eating anchovies almost every day, even now, 1 year later, when he's eating the anchovies and he's like, if you are here, we would eat it together. And I tell you, no, I'm good. I'm good for anchovies for the next 5 years. So,
So I have a question for a couple people. Vandy, you mentioned fufu. I just want to know if fufu is the same in different African countries. Is fufu like a bread?
So fufu can be made from different materials. So in my country, mostly people use cassava. So they grate cassava and it becomes like a flour and use that to prepare the fufu. You can also use plantain. I think probably in the east and in the south, probably people use yam, if I'm right. So people can also use yam to make some form of fufu. So you can use um, different root crops to prepare fufu.
so in East Africa, we don't have yams. Maybe Judy will say they have yams if they have yams in Rwanda, but in Kenya,
we have yams, but not enough to make fufu. They use it mostly in Nigeria, Republic of Benin.
Yeah.
It's where I have seen it eaten, the yam.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll show you what we use in Kenya and also, I guess, Uganda and Tanzania. We mostly use maize. Maize is in the family of corn, but it's different because maize, the seeds are bigger and they're white. And of late, I mean, in the traditional days, people would also make ugali from millet flour and sorghum, and then that disappeared, and modern life made the white ugali the equivalent of the fufu for us. The white ugali became popular, but then because of health reasons, we are all gravitating back towards the brown flour, and we mix the millet with the maize flour. So I'll show you maize flour in a minute. So what I'm doing here, I start with the shallow frying so that it cooks a little bit before I put the oil.
Mm. Yeah. So Will, I want to know, does your dad ever cook fufu at home before?
Not that I remember.
So it's the same concept as salsa. It's the same thing. The only difference is, as we were hearing earlier, in West Africa, they do a lot of food diversification. So they will make the starch into the fufu using different things. Whereas in East Africa, most of us will use either maize or millet or a combination of maize and millet or sorghum. There are very few people who I know in East Africa who will make ugali out of cassava. We will eat cassava.
We do it in Rwanda.
Okay.
We use cassava, at least when I was growing up. Now they are using also corn, but when I was growing up, it was almost exclusively cassava, cassava flour.
So I tried to make the ugali for my grandmother once. The cassava flour is very hard to cook. It's very sticky.
Oh.
So I didn't succeed. I've never tried again. Like that thing is very sticky. So I'm down to the last three.
Oh, sounds good.
So if
Esther,
I was doing this without talking and whatever, I would probably be able to make maybe 16 chapatis in 1 hour.
wow.
But that is still slow. The people who do it regularly, their speed is very fast because you're making dinner for a family, hungry men and hungry teenagers. So you have to move very, very quickly.
I find it very therapeutic. Just kind of like it's not as complicated as other dishes, but it's.
And you can imagine, I will tell you something, the amount that I've cooked right now, because of the size, a hungry man is probably going to eat all of them. So you can imagine to make for a family of 6.
Oh, yeah.
The number of chapatis you're going to have to make. So I usually try to get the chapati to look like that before I add the oil. And I would say that I'm using like half a teaspoon on either side.
Oh, I think Anna Maria already started cooking with you. That's awesome.
Excellent.
Yeah, I had the 1 cup flour as a base to start, so now I've already added the salt and I'm adding the water. Ooh, and quickly, I did try the fufu with both the ripe and the green plantain. I preferred with the ripe and the cassava because I had that on hand, so I just tried and made it, and they were both good, but my preference was also for the ripe.
Cool.
Oh, there you go. You picked your side. And if you add cheese, I won't tell Esther.
No, you can add it. It's okay. I'm actually curious. Like, what chapati with cheese tastes like?
Yeah, there you go. You should add cheese.
Yeah,
I think that it would burn if you mix the cheese with the flour.
Oh.
I would put, when the chapati is done, I would put my cheese to it. I would roll it or warm it up, but I wouldn't put it in the flour. I think it would burn.
So I try this experiment also sometimes, but this makes it a lot more challenging. Sometimes I mix my flour with this.
Yeah.
With the coconut flour or the almond flour, the one that is in the freezer, I had used this. I mixed the wheat flour with this. I've also done the almond flour with this because I figured it will give it a little bit more protein. But it was very sticky and it was tearing. So I mean, I did it obviously because I showed you the one in the freezer. I did it, but I can tell you that was a challenge. At some point, I was almost giving up. But I managed to do it, and then because the almond flour has got some protein, so this is not Kenyan. This is me like just experimenting. Because the almond flour, the coconut flour has got some protein, I find it more filling. Like I can eat that with a cup and drink a cup of tea, and feel like there is a bit of staying power in my body, as opposed to just eating chapati and tea. It's filling, but it's like any other carbohydrate. You'll have a carbohydrate high, and then you'll crash. But somebody asked earlier, as a meal, we normally have chapati with green grams, or we can have it with beans, or you can even have it with chicken stew. When I was a student, and all students are broke, we would have carbohydrate, we would have the chapati with spinach and a sausage, and we were quite happy. In Tanzania, this is a difference between Kenya and Tanzania. In Tanzania, this is actually a lot of work. Like you can imagine if you're a working woman, you come home after work, you make chapati for a family of 5 or something, maybe even your parents-in-law are there. So after you've done all that, you still have to make the stew. In Tanzania, they decided that this is too much work. So they will have chapati for breakfast. even in hotels and restaurants. When I first went to Tanzania, it was a surprise because in Kenya, you can have chapati any time of the day. As long as the restaurant is open, you can walk in. 2 o'clock in the morning, breakfast, dinner. We are kind of spoiled. Kenya has become very capitalistic. As long as you're a paying customer, you eat what you want. If you want to have dinner at 6 o'clock in the morning, they will cook it for you. If you want to have chapati at midnight, they will cook it for you and it will be freshly made. In Tanzania, they've just decided, it's a national culture. They've just decided that after 11 o'clock, there is no chapati. You can go around the entire city of Arusha. They will refuse to make it. They tell you chapati is for the morning. You're late. Come tomorrow morning. The chef has refused to make chapati. I guess if you go to the bigger restaurants where you're paying premium price, they will make it for you. But in the everyday restaurants, that was a big difference between Kenya and Tanzania that I picked up very quickly. And then also the equivalent of the fufu, the salsa, even that one, they will not cook it after 1 o'clock. Yeah, so that was like something which I found very entertaining when I moved to Tanzania. When I started going to Tanzania regularly, I found it very entertaining that I would go to a restaurant and the waiter tells me, the chef has said you should eat rice. I'm like, I don't want to eat rice. Like, it's too late to eat fufu. I'm like, but that's what I want.
It's right now, all I can think about is eating midnight chapati.
Yeah. So we are spoiled in Kenya, and I was just flagging up that Kenya has gotten more influenced by the capitalistic way of doing things. Tanzanians are still holding on to the African values where, you know, the cook in the kitchen, in the restaurant can actually make a suggestion for you that I think you should eat rice. Kenyans are like, why are you telling me to eat rice? I'm a paying customer. I get to choose what I'm eating.
So Bandy, when you were a student in Sierra Leone, do you sometimes go to a restaurant at 2 a.m. and want a particular food?
No, it's actually very weird. I don't know whether it's just in Sierra Leone, but when I was back home, I never thought of going to a restaurant. Mostly just eat from home. But if you are in school, they have people that come to school that sell little things during lunchtime. So you can buy that. That's the only time you actually buy food. And partly because probably I didn't really have any money on my own, and your parents will not really give you money to go to restaurant. So it was rare. People still go to restaurants like on big holidays, probably like, let's say Christmas or some holiday when you go out as a family. Sometimes you can go to a restaurant, but it was not common at all. I only started really going to restaurants and eating after I left Sierra Leone.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
Restaurants are there anyways. But now when I go back, I go to restaurants. Now so it's interesting, yeah. So before, when I was a student there, I never went to restaurant.
So when I say restaurant, I'm using that term very, very loosely because it's really more like it's not like fancy restaurant like Olive Garden or anything like that. It's like one of those quick service. It's more like I don't want to say fast food place because they don't really sell fast food, but the budget, the price is very, very low. So I'll give you an example. When I was at the University of Nairobi, there was a street called Luthuli Avenue. We would go there every Friday because we know that the French fries are very cheap and they'll give you a lot. It's a big serving for a very small amount of money. So it's not like high-end restaurants or anything like that. It's like restaurants that charge very, very moderate price. And there's just no better way of calling them, so we call them restaurants. But yeah, as students growing up, you know, we'll go to Luthuli Avenue because you're gonna get a lot of French fries for very, very small money. Even chapati, it's the same thing, but you're going to get a lot of chapatis for and pay very little, like any other student. So that was the reason for doing that. Or if you're traveling and you stop somewhere for lunch, yeah, you know you can get a lot of food. And it's fresh, it is freshly made, so it's very hygienic, very clean. And most importantly, it's delicious and it's cheap.
Nice. Yeah. So I see you finished your cooking.
I have finished my cooking.
Oh, let's see. Oh, sorry, I featured the wrong video. Let me
I'll wait for you here.
Oh, look at that.
Looks awesome.
Yeah.
I'll make a cup of tea. I'll make a cup of tea. I'll make a cup of tea. So notice that this is the first time I'm actually washing my hands since I started cooking. As I said, that is usually a sign that the dough mixed very well. It's not sticking to your fingers.
Oh, I see. I know that we will have like follow-up questions for your cooking, but before that, I should let Anna Maria finish her cooking too. But I was just curious, like, is it okay if we have a group picture together?
Yes, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm at the clean hand stage, about ready to roll out, so I'm good.
Stage like that. Yeah. So if everyone is okay, we are gonna take a group photo together. So is everyone?
Let me position my camera nicely because there's glare behind.
Sounds good. I think Miss Judith is trying to find a nice position. Oh, there you go. Yeah, that looks nice.
Yay.
Yeah. Yeah, and Esther find her selfie spot, and so that's good. So okay, so everyone is good, and oh, there you go. So 3, 2, 1. Oh, it looks so nice, and the food looks great too. Yeah, so Esther, thank you so much for teaching us this. I look forward to see what Anna Maria come up with too.
Yeah, like I said, mine is just following the recipe on this one. And it's almost the same as making a flour tortilla, except we don't roll it so we don't get layers the way that chapati works. But yeah, it's almost exactly the same.
Yeah, but I know you're gonna do some, I know it's you are you, so you're gonna do some interesting variation. And I look forward to
For
that.
this one, I'm just going with it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Vandy, do you think you're gonna give it a try sometime?
Yes, but not anytime soon.
I have a question for Esther.
Yes.
What is the best way to eat your chapati? You eat it with what? With goat meat, goat sauce?
So I normally eat it like a vegetarian meal, and I'll show you like when I made the other one. I made a bean stew. This is the last of it. I made a bean stew. The way I usually make my bean stew, I will either put coconut milk or I'll put milk. This one had milk in it, so I will make my. Oh, there you are. So I will make my. I will. If I wanted to heat this up, I would just add a little bit of milk, and so that it has a little bit of sauce. And I use my fingers. We don't use a fork and whatever. So I'll actually even just heat a little bit of it just to show you how we eat it with our hands.
Oh. That does sound like an Indian dish because you usually use your hand.
The Arabs, Arabs also use their fingers, but even in African cultures, we never had spoons and forks.
Oh, I see. Oh, so Will, I know you traveled to India many times before. So did you eat something similar to this before?
Yeah, in India they have chapati.
Do you feel it looks a little different, or do you think it looks the same?
It looks kind of the same. Seems like there's more oil in the version of chapati.
Oh, I see. Do you like the oil? Do you like it with more oil or less oil?
I'd probably like it, I think.
Remember, we said for us, we want it soft. If you remove the oil, it's gonna be dry.
Oh.
Okay, let me say drier. It will be drier.
Esther, how do you compare it with roti? The roti.
It's very similar, but then I think it's just going back to the fact that for us, we are going for soft and layers.
Yeah, the roti is layered, but it's more fragile. It's more.
Then ours is thinner, and it's also we also want it very thin, as thin as possible.
Esther does
For
chapati.
those who don't know, roti is made in the West Indies.
Esther, does chapati have a meaning exactly, or is just a name? Does it
No,
have?
it doesn't have a meaning because we borrowed this. Remember, this is like, as I said, Swahili culture is a fusion of cultures, and the words have come from either, most of the words in Kiswahili have either come from Bantu. So, for example, if Judy is to speak her dialect, I will understand a lot of the things she's saying because some of the words in Kiswahili are from Bantu. Judy, you are Bantu, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So if Judy, like, so what is the in your dialect? How do you say go?
Go. Genda.
Genda. So in Kiswahili we say enda.
Yeah.
And then Judy, how do you say cook?
Guteka.
So we say pika.
Guteka. Pika.
And then how do you say cow?
Inha.
Okay, so that's a little different, but other Bantu tribes will say something that sounds very similar with ng'ombe. But if we play this game with Judy, you'll see like there will be so many words that were derived from from the Bantu culture. And I could play a similar game with somebody who speaks Arabic, and I can also play a similar game with somebody who speaks Hindu.
Yeah, even though I didn't know what you were going for there, you asked her, go cook cow. And I was thinking, that's an interesting sentence.
Yeah, it's a very simple recipe.
How do you say home?
Home is a house or home is where you live?
Both.
House is Inzu. And home is Iwachu. Murugo.
Okay, so that's different, but there are some which in Kiswahili we say nyumba, and some Bantu dialects will use, or maybe that one came from Arabic actually. That may have come from Arabic.
Yeah. Murugo is home.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, so Esther, I think you're gonna have a really nice dish tonight.
So this is my bean stew. I'm just gonna heat it up a little more.
I have a question with your bean stew.
Yeah.
Is it like a Maasai dish? Because Bantus usually don't use milk that much. This is the first time I heard the bean dish with milk.
This is not, I think this is just like a mixture of Kenyan cultures. I would not say that this is the way we used to make our beans traditionally, but because our Kenyan people like our milk, we put it in everything. We put it in vegetables. We put milk in vegetables, and the coastal people will put coconut milk. So
Okay.
for some of us, and it's not all Kenyans who will do that, but there'll be Kenyans who have decided to put milk in beans. I do this because my sister-in-law did it, and I liked it, and I was like, oh, now I'm going to be putting milk in my beans. Coconut milk is something that many people from other parts of Kenya do not put in milk in their food because it's rich in calories. And when you start using coconut milk on a regular basis, you will notice immediately the effect. Okay, at least me, if I'm to use coconut milk as a regular thing for my cooking, I will see it on my hips within a week.
I think it sounds kind of like Indian cooking. I mean, I don't know enough Indian cooking to make the judgment, but so Will, do you think it feels kind of like Indian cooking?
Yes, they also use yogurt. They use yogurt to neutralize the hot pepper in some of their dishes.
Yeah, I just asked Will because he has been to India many times and for a really long time. So I just...
Yeah, I don't know if the bean dish is much like Indian cooking.
Oh yeah, but she said she used a lot of milk and the coconut milk for cooking. So I thought that sounds like an Indian dish tradition.
And they use ghee butter.
Which is from milk.
Yeah.
We use ghee too. We like our ghee. And I'll keep going back to this issue of the Arab, that our Indian influence has been modified by the Arabic influence. So it will not be exactly how people do things in India.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember if you said it, but there are many Indians who live in Kenya who are Kenyans.
So that's my phone is running out of power, so I'm trying to see how to show you this. Maybe. I think you can kind of see.
Oh yeah, we can see it. Yeah, it looks nice.
We use our fingers and we just do this. So see, it's soft.
Oh, I see.
And then we scoop it. We use the chapati. We eat ugali the same way. Yeah, so we just eat.
Oh, there you go. You're tempting us.
Bon appetit.
So see the layers that I was talking about?
Yeah. Yeah, you have to take a picture and send it to us later.
So this, it's not just about the layers, but because the layers had even a little bit of oil in between them, so it cooks fully inside. So the people who are in Kenya who are making a fast, they make a fast because they will test the flour inside if it is not fully cooked. But when they are layers, they do not test it. It's fully cooked up to inside.
I see. Yeah, and you start eating and it makes us feel all hungry.
I want just to show you that that is how we eat traditionally. Even our own African dishes, that is how we will eat them.
Yeah.
Nice, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is so
Thank
fun.
you.
Yeah. So yeah, before we say good night to each other, does anyone have any questions for Esther?
Just thank you.
Of the 10 cheeses that you tried during your experiment, which was the best?
So I like the cheese that has got pepper in it, the jack, the one, what is it called? I've not had it for a while now. The one that has got pepper. The one that has jalapeno in it. But then I also like cheddar cheese. I can eat cheddar cheese meat with nothing, like on its own. I don't like the cheese that has got a very strong smell. Like the fancy, expensive cheese is not my thing. That's what I discovered from the beginning. The Swiss cheese, the soft cheese. If the cheese is soft, I probably will not like it. I like the one which at least you have something to chew. So that's for if I'm eating it on its own with nothing else. I like something that you can chew, like cheddar. I don't want the ones which have got a very sharp flavor. Cheddar is good, mild, the mildness of cheddar. And then if it's got a flavor, I like it with a bit of pepper.
Okay, so Anna Maria, those are the cheese you can use if you cook chipata.
It will be a tortilla one.
Oh, there you go.
It reminded me of a tortilla.
Yeah, well, Esther, I will leave you to your delicious dinner. Please send me a picture of this delicious food. And thank you so much for doing this for us.
Of course, it is my pleasure.
Yeah, this is so fun.
For visiting my kitchen.
Yeah.
Can't wait to finish making them.
Yeah, Anna Maria, you have some food waiting for you too, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Has Anna Maria's first one come out?
No, I need to roll it. I just don't have enough room to put the computer on and roll it. It'll end up on the floor.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm just gonna roll it out later.
Okay, yeah, let us know how it goes. I would love to see your final product. Yeah. Well, everyone else like me who still have to search for food, I hope you all have a good evening and a good dinner. And yeah.
Hey, everyone.
Not too hard. So thank you, Esther.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
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 Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
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 Bye.